Welcome, everybody, to the 25th stream of DBB Live. Hope you've all had a great day so far. Ready to talk some Detroit basketball. As always, I'm Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops, the Detroit Bad Boys, and I am joined by the Aussie himself, Jack Kelly from Detroit Bad Boys. And Jack, are you ready for some Pistons basketball tomorrow? I can't wait.
I'm ready to go, Wes. I'm ready to go. It's we were just saying before we jumped on just how it's preseason snuck up so quick. But I'm super excited. I'm getting up super early tomorrow morning to watch the would you call that time slot the matinee? Or is that more a 12 p.m. 1
Yeah.
o'clock? So anyway, I'm getting up super early. I can't wait to watch some preseason basketball. So really excited. And we've also got some interesting things to talk about today. Some real basketball, I guess, quotes and that kind of thing to react to.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those real things, obviously we had media day, right? So we heard quite a bit from everybody. And we also heard quite a bit from Monty Williams, including recently some of the interviews he's given after various camp practices. So, Jack, I know you pulled a few that you wanted to have us kind of talk through, and interested to see what you flagged for us. So take it away, my man.
For sure. So look, we've actually gotten a lot of access to Monty Williams so far from the Detroit beat reporters. Shout out to Amari, shout out to James, shout out to Mike, all doing some excellent work. Detroit Kool-Aid, killing it, Brandon Dent. So those guys are giving us some really good tidbits. So the first thing I wanted to hit was, and this one sort of went across Twitter, as it always does, if there's anything about Killian. But Monty basically went out of his way to kind of praise Killian Hayes, saying he's been terrific. Those were his words. And that he's also been quite vocal, which that one stood out to me as well. Him sort of showing some leadership. So do you think this is a case of, I mean, for me, I think it's good to see Monty giving some praise to Killian, but part of me thinks as well, like Monty's never going to come out and say some bad things in his first couple of days. He's going to be hyping up all the players. What did you take away from that? Do you think that means Killian's in the rotation? Do you think that's just Monty, he's new, giving Killian some praise? What did you take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's good, right? And at least means that Killian isn't, making like a fool of himself in practices or anything. But I lean more to the second thing that you said, right? I can't. I'm struggling right now to think of a young player on this team he hasn't complimented yet. He's been talking positively about all these guys, right? They've all been doing what they need to do, yada yada yada. It's a lot of, I don't want to call it coach speak, but like kind of like what you said, right? What do we want? Is he gonna? We want to have him come out of these training camp practices and just say, wow, Killian was awful today. He's not going to be in the rotation. The guy can't shoot. He's not good at XYZ. He's not going to do that. Even if all of those things are true, he's not going to do that. So, I don't think that we can really take anything of substance away from it. I think tomorrow we'll find out just how much, excitement we can get on Killian Hayes. But yeah, to your point, he's not going to come out and just dog everybody. He's going to talk positively about the young guys, and that's what he's been. So it's all good. It's all good.
No, look, and I'm with you. I think the thing he mentioned in Killian, sort of communication, I guess leadership. I couldn't find the exact quote, but I definitely saw it somewhere. How that stuck out alongside Jalen Duren and Cade. I thought that was noteworthy because I think from watching Killian Hayes in his past 3 to 4 seasons, he seems to come across as a bit more reserved, not as vocal as, say, a Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart. And that's okay. That's fine. So I think him coming into year 4 being a bit more vocal, I think that's a good thing, especially with sort of the point guard, all the battles and that kind of thing he's going to have to go through to try and earn minutes. I think that was noteworthy. But yeah, I'm with you on the whole. Coach Monty Williams is never going to come out, even if this was his 2nd or 3rd season at training camp, and sort of say anything negative about any of the young guys. I don't think any coach would really do that, to be honest. So, but yeah, I'm with you. The other thing I wanted
to... here, then let me get I was just gonna say, let me get your thoughts on this then, because I have seen a little bit more that communication has been the big issue with Hayes. And honestly, the past, like especially last year, I thought when he played, it's not necessarily that he's not talking out there, but more that he doesn't have command. He doesn't have the confidence where he's actually putting guys in spots. But it seemed like defensively he was talking. So it was tough for me to take anything away out of that Monty Williams quote when he's talking about the communication, rather than something larger than that. But am I off base for that? Was that your observation as well, where it seemed like he was communicating, but he wasn't putting people where they needed to go? So he wasn't commanding out there, which is a real detriment when you're the point guard.
No, I think that's a very fair call. If I'm understanding it correctly, are you saying that you think Monty might have just been referring to his communication on defense per se, as opposed to kind of being a floor general and a leader amongst, and that might be what he's referring to, and that would make a ton of sense. And I guess, as you said, Killian Hayes' strong suit has been on the defensive end of the floor since he entered the league. So maybe that's just what he's referring to. So that's actually a really good point to bring up. Because that, in my like, defensive communication is clearly very important, especially for this team that sort of like that. Like, so if that's just what he's referring to, that probably isn't as exciting, and I think that's really important context to bring up for sure. The next thing I wanted to get to was, I guess, another couple of players who are sort of trying to find their way in the rotation. That was Monty sort of talking about Marvin Bagley and not Jalen Duren. James Wiseman battling for the backup. Yep. He just said backup minutes. I assume he's talking about backup big man minutes. What did you take from that?
Just that specifically Wiseman hasn't looked so incredible in camp that he has moved himself into competition with Duren for the starting 5 spot. I mean, like, reasonable expectation was always that those two were going to be fighting for the backup 5 rotation minutes. So the fact that it's exactly what we expected is, I guess I would say, on expectation. So we'll see how that progresses. I was happy, I guess, that it's probably genuinely a battle, right? It's not just that James Wiseman is going to be handed it. He's going to have to earn it, which I think is good for him and obviously good for the team too. So, yeah, those are my main takeaways. Kind of what I expected, but good to hear nonetheless.
Did it make you think at all about what the starting lineup looks like, and I guess Isaiah Stewart? Because I think what you said all makes sense. Part of me is wondering, because Isaiah Stewart, I think, is seen as a 4-man now. At least, like, so if James Wiseman and Marvin Bagley are battling for the backup center minutes, do you think that means that Isaiah Stewart is definitely starting at the 4, or he's coming off the bench as a 4? Because if I would think if Stu's coming off the bench, maybe I thought he might have been coming off the bench as a 5-man backup. But I don't know. Did that raise any questions there, or not really?
No, but only because I think every bit of messaging we've gotten from the team, including from Isaiah Stewart himself, has been that he's a 4. Not he's a combo big, not he's a 5 who could play the 4, that he's a 4. So I'm operating under the assumption that that's where they're going to play him, and whether that be off the jump, right, as the starting 4, or coming off the bench as the 4, I think he is the 4. My only hope at this point, it feels like it might be a long shot, but my only hope is that he does still get some minutes at the 5. I think he could be a really valuable backup 5. So, maybe just like 10 minutes a game would be great, in my opinion, if we could get him at the 5 spot there. But we'll see if that happens. I think they look at him as a 4.
So this brings me to my next point, where Monty also, he sort of brought up how he wants to utilize Isaiah Stewart's interior game more. So this is where I was sort of thinking, well, maybe there is plans to use him at the backup 5, because if he's playing at the 4, I kind of like, are we going to have Jalen Duren on the other block and Stu on one block for not all the time, but some possessions? Like, how this is just where some of my confusion comes from, and intrigue, I guess. So Isaiah Stewart down on the block, posting up, doing stuff in the inside. How does that make you feel? And how do you think that kind of fits in the rotation and scheme sort of things?
Well, I don't love it, Jack. I'll be honest with you. But I'm trying to just push the concern down a little bit. It was just a comment after a practice. It's nothing set in stone. But maybe they're experimenting with some high-low stuff between him and Duran. We did see that a little bit last year with Duran and Wiseman, right? We saw Duran playing up on the high, dropping down a pass, and having those two play off each other that way. So, you know, as far as combinations go, I would imagine that 1-2 punch would be more effective at that than Duran and Wiseman and Duran and Bagley. So at least, relatively speaking, it would be better than the alternative if they're going to do it. I would rather have Stewart kind of out closer to the perimeter, maybe in the mid range, than on the block. I don't think he's ever really been an efficient post up scorer or even passer. Although, he did flash a few things his rookie year, hitting the opposite corner, if I remember correctly, off the block. But yeah, I wasn't super excited about that one. But maybe just everyone's going to post up, right? I mean, we're thinking maybe Cade's going to post up this
Don't say
year.
that.
Wiseman's going to post up. Maybe everyone's going to post up. Who knows?
So Mel75 makes a good point. Maybe just on switches. So maybe if Stu's got a smaller wing on him, maybe that's where they look to utilize the interior game. Whilst that makes a ton of sense and an awesome point, I'm still just constantly envisioning if Stu's at the 4 and has a switch, this Jalen Duren or someone's still going to be down there. James Wiseman or Marvin Bagley going to be in the paint. Maybe if it's Bagley at the 5, he's out on the 3-point line, even though that's not really his strong suit. But yeah, look, I was with you. I think the mention of the interior game, I didn't mind it because I think Stu can do some things around there. I just don't know how that works with the rest of the team around him. And that's sort of why I thought maybe there is a potential to use him at the backup 5 position.
Yeah. So YouTube user Monty said he wants them to take advantage of mismatches, talking about Isaiah Stewart playing in the post a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Like you said, he's still out there with another non-shooting big, so that's going to constrict the court. And a little nitpick that all of us have had talking about Isaiah Stewart at the 4 has been when he gets the ball at the perimeter, he up fakes, has the guy go by him and starts to drive. In the past, this has pretty much just been he's going to finish it or it's going to get turned over situation rather than he's making a pass out of that drive to really take advantage and play out of the 5-on-4 advantage that they have. And operating a switch, not insignificant part of that when you're posting up a smaller guy is making the right read on the pass when they bring help. And that's still where I have some issue with Isaiah Stewart. That's where still some of my concern is with him offensively. And, if he's not excelling at it while he's facing the basket and moving towards the hoop, is he going to be better at it when his back's towards the basket and he has to kind of feel the guys behind him rather than visually see them? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical. So that's my worry. That's my concern with it.
I'm with you. And while you're mentioning all that, because Isaiah Stewart, you're right. Like, I feel like as a rookie towards the back end of his first season, I feel like he did make some nice passing reads. I remember feeling like coming up that season, maybe there's potential there for him to maybe be a short roll guy. But I don't think we've seen that since his real rookie season. If he's tried, it's probably looked a bit awkward at times. But as you were just saying all this, because it's also valid, and I feel like with the extension Stu's got, I truly think he's going to become the new Killian Hayes amongst the fan base in terms of this season for him. It's like if you're a Stu fan or a Stu believer, like you think he's going to shoot the ball well, he's going to show some stuff off the bounce, like a little bit off the bounce, and him at the 4 is going to work to some degree. But I think with that $16 million a year contract, if he's not making these passes out of the post, if he's not showing much off the bounce, and rightfully so, to be honest, like I'm happy with the deal. But if he's not showing some stuff this season, I think it could get quite ugly, at least just from a Twitter fan base point of view.
For sure. It definitely can.
So I believe in Stu, but yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. There's a couple other things I wanted to get to as well, just regarding. So this came out yesterday from Monty, and it was just in an interview, just at training camp, and he was So I'm sorry I don't have the exact quote here. I didn't have a chance to grab it, but it was
Okay.
him basically talking about him not being as invested in analytics and sort of how he was almost kind of not dismissing analytics. He said there's like a purpose for them and a use, but he thinks potentially some people can be over reliant on them, and that's why he still leans into the mid-range shot and that kind of thing. Do you have any concerns with, I guess, Monty's approach to that? I know I didn't word that very well, but I guess overall, do you have any concerns with his offense featuring so much mid-range shooting?
No, I don't. Sorry, excuse me. I don't, because at least historically, and you can rightfully, or at least confidently assume that this is going to continue into this Monty Williams offense. It's not that everybody on the roster is allowed to take mid-range shots. It's that those who are good at them can take the mid-range shots. And honestly, I think that, by and large, that heuristic there, right? Like, if the player's good at making the shots, they can take them, and if they're not, they shouldn't take them. That'll get you pretty far. At least at most levels of basketball. I tend to think at the NBA, but maybe you can make the argument against that. No, it doesn't worry me, and his stance on the analytics, it doesn't worry me much either. I mean, it sounds a lot like he was taking kind of the middle ground with it. Like you mentioned, there are those who just reject it all the way out. Want to go with your own eye, with how you're feeling in the moment during the game, and then there are those that are, off the cliff. It's everything. It means everything, and it's totally infallible. And both of those things are wrong. I mean, it's come up a couple times. I'm an economics guy, right? I'm a numbers guy. I love the numbers, but there's a lot of room, and there's a lot of funky, like a lot of room for these analytics to be wrong, and there's a lot of funky math that goes on in some of them, where I think it's right to have some skepticism about how applicable they can be. So the fact that he's kind of playing in the middle ground, he's gonna use some that seem to be pretty solid, and he's gonna maybe ignore others that don't. And then on top of that, just operate on what my players are good at. We're gonna lean on, and that's where I would personally be. So I actually liked it.
No, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. And one of the things when Coach Monty Williams was hired, I reached out to just the Suns writer, Stephen. He was meant to come on the show, but his car broke down. We'll need to get him back on at some point, maybe for the season starts. He said one of the things he loved about Monty Williams was he really, and it sounds like such a simple thing, and you outlined it so like good then. Like, he just empowers players to do what they're good at. Young players, veterans, rookies, he would just push them to do what they're good at. And I think that's something I'm excited to see with Asar Thompson. I don't think we're going to see Asar Thompson taking pull-up mid-range shots, or I'm really interested to see how he sort of coaches Asar, because I think Asar's jump shot's going to take a minute, and just to see how he has Asar navigate on offense. So, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, though, in terms of Monty will empower guys who can shoot the mid-range to take mid-range shots, like you did with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And hopefully that means – actually, I'm not going to say it. I was going to talk about a couple of big men shooting jumpers, but we're positive today. We've got hoops tomorrow. The last thing I wanted to get to, Jaden Ivey coming off the bench. Jaden said, so I actually have, this isn't just the Twitter thing. This is I know. James Edwards has left some, I don't want to say cryptic, but he's left some things in a couple of his recent articles, sort of alluding to the fact that he hasn't said that it's likely Jaden Ivey comes off the bench or anything of that kind, but I think he's mentioned that Ivey is someone who in some universe he could see coming off the bench. Those weren't his words, but just in terms of if the Pistons looking to win, Jaden Ivey could be a guy that could come off the bench. So, and then Jaden also said, basically, when asked about that, I believe he said something along the lines of, I'll do whatever the team, his response was basically, I'll do whatever the team needs me to do. If that, whatever's conducive to winning. We've hit on this. You know how I feel. Do you think Jaden Ivey comes off the bench at all?
Don't. I would really be curious to know who asked the question to Jaden Ivey for, we'll call it somewhat related point here, but I won't elaborate on that one. We can all assume on that. Anyway, I think when you're looking at James's articles, and James is really, really good in his writing, at least I think, in really separating when he's reporting versus when he's giving his opinion on how he thinks something might shake out. And those two are very different things. Like, even though it's an informed opinion, which it obviously is, because he does know more than all of us, he's got more access than all of us. It is still just an opinion. He's not reporting that that's on the table. He, in all of these articles, when he brings this up, it's usually in the context of Asar Thompson is really good at defense. The Pistons have said that they want to be better at defense this year. And of the guys that are pretty confident that, have at least a chance at making the starting lineup this season, only 3 of them are good at defense. And then there's Asar Thompson. So if you're going for an all defense move, right? If you're really going to go in all in on defense, you're not going to bench Isaiah Stewart because he's a good defender. You're not going to bench Jalen Duren because he's probably your best shot blocker. And you're definitely not going to put Cade on the bench in any scenario. So that only leaves Jaden Ivey and Bojan Bogdanovic. And that is where I think, at least I'm interpreting that he's coming from. Because again, in no way was he reporting anything there, right? He was giving his opinion and his read on it. So, yeah, I don't think he's coming off the bench. I don't think there's a world where he's coming off the bench. I think, like, if you had to put percentages on it, maybe it's only 95 instead of 100, but he's going to start. They're so invested in him. He's going to start, and he's so
Yeah.
talented. I would just ignore it.
You're good at ignoring things. I'm not. So
I have years of practice.
No, yeah, everything you said makes sense, Wes. I don't have anything else to add. I think it's time we dive into some questions, unless you had any more do you have any thoughts about media day or any other training camp thoughts thus far?
No. I'm just really excited for tomorrow. And we should bring up, just came out a little bit ago, that Bojan's going to be out. I think it was a calf injury, muscle strain. So that'll be interesting. I bet it means Asar gets to play a little bit more. So we'll see how it goes. That should be fun. Opens up a little spot there.
For sure. And I
But yeah,
think
let's hit
to
some
close out the show as well, we're going to project some lineups for tomorrow and opening night. So we'll get to that in a minute. So if we don't hit it in the questions. So first question here is from John Buck. Shout out to John. He was in the comments early. Yeah, I mean, it said he was in the comments at 2:30 a.m. my time. It's now 11:20. So we appreciate John's commitment to the show. And he has a really good question here. So what is your focus when watching a game? On the ball or just off the ball? I noticed that if I focus a few feet off ball towards the middle of the court, I was able to see everything, including plays developing. How do you watch a game of NBA basketball these days, Wes? Specifically the Pistons, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah, no. I really like to not focus on a thing in a particular. This is really hard to describe because this is just how mentally I have trained myself to do it. Because obviously, I think all of us, right? When you first start watching basketball, you're only watching the ball handler. But like John points out, that's a very narrow view, and especially when you're trying to analyze more of these players at once, and taking a look at the system in general, you want to see the movement, right? So rather than trying to focus on just the ball or just the spot on the court, I try to bring focus out to see as much of the movement as possible, just so I can track generally where guys are. And honestly, a lot of times it's really pretty. It's beautiful seeing all of these guys moving in unison, communicating with each other, and moving as a unit out there on offense and on defense. So yeah, I'm not describing it well. I try to unfocus. Like if you stare at a painting for too long and everything, like in the background, goes blurry, but you got what's right in front of you. I try to do that. I'm not good at words, Jack. Save me. How do you watch basketball?
No, that was a really good way to describe it at the end there. I know exactly what you mean. I think, honestly, 85% of the time on offense, I'm just watching the ball. Like, I'm still like far too invested as a fan, if that makes sense. Like, we're all fans, but I still very much watch offense like a fan. Like, I'm looking for highlight plays. Like, I'm getting jacked up if like someone has a dunk or makes a nice pass. Defense is where, because like I feel like I've really been trying to learn how to watch defense and sort of not so much break it down, but just understand what's happening. So that's where I'll more watch off the ball, particularly the big men, like the centers, the foremen, like what they're sort of doing on the baseline, that kind of thing, if they're switching. But honestly, when I'm watching a game, particularly if it's live, so if for me, obviously, I can't watch a lot of live games because I'm at work. So if I'm able to watch a live game, like I'm very focused on the ball and the score and everything. But if I'm watching it back at night and catching up on the replay, that's when I watch more off ball and sort of try and figure out, what approach Detroit are taking on each end. But it's funny, like this is why, like, and I'm sure you're the same with the Lions, Wes. Like, is the Lions for you just like you're fully enjoying it? You ride every emotion, and it's just pure sports, like I guess fandom. I guess like that's how I am with my Australian Football League team. So it's different.
No, you hit the nail on the head with that one. I am incredibly irrational when it comes to the Lions.
Yeah.
I want them to win as many games as possible. I'm all in on like momentum, like game over game, even though it's really I know in my heart it's not a thing, but like I want it. So I'm in on it. Like I'm all the way gone with the Lions. Something I'm really excited about this year with the Pistons though is in the past, because Dwayne Casey had been the coach of the team for so long. There are times when you're watching an area on the court and you see something out of the corner of your eye, like an off ball action, start to move, and it's like something clicks. Like, oh, I've seen that 5 or 6 times. This is where the ball's going, so you can predict where things are happening, and
Yeah.
then it gets kind of fun when you're able to start doing that live. So I'm excited to build that up with Monty Williams. I want to see if I can get it by the end of the year, because it took me like 2 seasons with Dwayne to start like, oh no, all right, handoff's coming from the left wing. Like, I got it now. I've got the feel. So I'm excited for that.
How exciting is it to, and this is no knock on Dwayne Casey at all. It's got nothing to do with him, but how exciting is it just going to be to watch a new coach, sort of how he implements offense and defense? Like, I know we have an idea. We've seen Monty Williams in the NBA a ton before, but he's got new players, a different age demographic to what he had at Phoenix, at least in the past few seasons. Like, how is he going to utilize this team? I'm so excited to watch that tomorrow. And it's going to take a minute. Like, what we see tomorrow in the first 20 games of the season is probably going to be different to what we see post All-Star break. But yeah, it's very exciting. Great question from John, as always.
My fingers, closing my eyes, and sitting like this. That like off the ball, the guys move, because that was like the biggest bugaboo with Dwayne Casey's offense. It's like, you'd have the ball screen, you'd have maybe a flare screen in the corner. Maybe if you're lucky. Usually it's a handoff or just one-sided action. Everyone else is just spacing. Like, I'm ready to see some movement, because Monty Williams' teams in the past have all done it. So please.
Let's go. Oh, you got me excited. All right. Another one from John. Shout out to John. I heard Sasa say he could see Durant playing point. I love it. I did not hear this. And this is why I love John, because he always comes in with some things I haven't heard or seen. I don't want to see Jalen Durant at the point guard. I did say Sasa mentioned something about he didn't know Jalen Durant very well coming here and that he's a real hard worker and that kind of thing, but I didn't hear that part. Maybe I missed it. Did you hear that, Wes?
Well, I heard the Sasser part. I didn't hear the playing point part, but like, I love it. Hype up your guys, Marcus. Hype them up. Get them excited. Get the fans ready to watch some Jalen Durant basketball. Yes, I don't think he could do it, but I love the hype man energy here. This is great.
It's awesome. All right, YouTube user. She'll be the perfect first big off the bench in a few years. I doubt he can develop into a starter when the team is good. Now, I flagged this question and thank you for the statement, I guess, YouTube user. How would you feel about Stu being a $64 million backup?
Really good. That's what I hope he is, actually. I like the contract. I like the contract because of the way that the salary cap is going to continue to grow. And then even if you look at it next year, it's not all that much higher than the mid-level exception. Like, the fact of it is, over the course of this deal, he did get paid backup money, right? Like, he got paid fringe starter money. Whether he's going to be a starter or backup for this team, remains to be seen. It seems like it's leaning to starter, and that's great. He's still a young guy. He's got a lot of room to grow, all that stuff. Maybe he can be more, but I've always thought that this is kind of his end destiny, right? Being a high energy, really effective big off the bench who can shoot the ball a little bit, be really switchable. Like those guys are incredibly valuable in the playoffs. So that is where I've thought long term he's going to go. And honestly, that's what his contract says he's going to be in the future. But maybe he proves us wrong. And like I said, he's still young. There's a lot of room for him to grow. Maybe he's more than that.
For sure. For sure. And definitely seems to be Stu's role long term on a contender, Patrick Wickett says. And I think I think a lot of people see that for him and I think would be happy with him. I mean, I just can't wait to see Isaiah Stewart in the playoffs. And I hope it's in a Pistons jersey because I think he's going to have some moments, not so much highlight plays, but just some moments of physicality that I could just see LCA going crazy, him hustling for a rebound, blocking a shot, and going berserk. So for some reason, that's something I'm just desperate to see. But great point from Patrick there.
He could be a lot like Al Horford's been in the playoffs for the Celtics. Like that is reasonably in Isaiah Stewart's wheelhouse in a few years. Like, it would just be so fun. Yeah, I hope it's in Detroit too.
Let's do it. All right. Just Football Academy. And I believe this is Rocky from Sydney, actually. So shout out, or Rocco. Apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. But what are we expecting to see in our first preseason game?
It's a good question. All right, why don't we each pick like one big thing that we want to
Ooh,
see, so we don't end up getting talking for another half hour just
all
about
right.
this, because I know we're both pretty juiced for
Okay.
the
You
game
go
tomorrow.
first.
So all right. I really want to see how Cade's jump shot looks, and I'm expecting it to look good. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm really just so excited to
I
watch
love
Kane
it.
Cunningham play. He's probably only
Yeah.
get like 3 to 5 minutes. Like he's not going to get a lot of time. I wouldn't expect him to get a lot of time. Okay, but like in the time that he's out on the floor, I want to see that 3 point shot because I think it can be legit, and he's had a lot of
Mm.
time to work at it, and that would really open things up on the court. So that's the one thing I'm watching for. Cade's jumper.
That's an excellent one. That's what I was thinking. I think for me, and we'll keep this positive, I really want to see how Monty utilizes Jaden Ivey off ball. Just seeing how that kind of plays out. And just Jaden Ivey playing alongside Cade Cunningham in general, to be honest, how that looks. And I guess another thing is, just while I'm on Jaden Ivey, is just his defense. I'm not going to take major things away from it tomorrow. It's a preseason game, but just seeing him off ball, on the ball, just keeping a close eye there to see if there's any improvements or a change of, I guess, effort. Because that was something that waned at times last season.
Here's
All right.
here's a bonus one. I got a bonus one for you. Our two rookies here, Sar Thompson and Marcus Sasser. This is going to be as long as no, actually at any point in the game. I was going to qualify it, but I won't. So I'll rescind that. This will be the most talent that we have watched them play against. So it will be really interesting to see how they respond to that. These are ostensibly better players than the summer league roster guys. Now, I mean, the Suns aren't going to be playing their stars, but everyone in summer league is not an NBA player. Just about everyone here on the Phoenix Suns is an NBA player. So see how they
Yeah.
respond. That could be interesting.
Very, very, very interesting. And for those that aren't aware, I would imagine everyone tuning into this is very aware of when the Pistons play, but it's 3 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday, against the Phoenix Suns. And I believe it's going to be on Bally Sports. Is that correct, Wes? It'll be League Pass for me.
So otherwise, I'm going to have to find a workaround.
But yeah, we can't wait. All right, next question here. I heard Boyan isn't playing tomorrow. What does that mean for lineup? So we addressed the Boyan injury moments ago. He's out with a calf strain. It's nothing serious. I would assume he'll probably just miss a couple of preseason games. But yeah, what do you think this means for lineups for tomorrow for the preseason game.
Yeah. I wonder. I have been wondering since I saw that if this just means Asar is gonna get the start at the three. I mean, obviously, I've been advocating for Asar next to Boyan, but I've been seeing a lot online, and I think you've mentioned it too. I don't necessarily hate Asar next to Stewart. You're just trading off shooting for defense, which is a fine thing. They were, not great at defense last year, so like I get it, I get it. I wonder if that's just what ends up happening, or maybe Monty goes, three guard. Maybe you stick Harris out there. I don't know. There are a couple ways he could go with that forward spot, and I'm very curious to see where it ends up. What's your gut saying right now? Like, is it Asar? Do you think maybe Joe Harris, Alec Burke, someone else?
I put out like a rotation this morning of Boyan at the 3, Stewart at the 4, but obviously Boyan's out.
Yeah.
I think Asar comes in just because it's a preseason game as well. I think give him as much run. He's got the fresh legs. You want to see what you have there. Well, they know what they have there, but give him the run against NBA competition. I think Asar starts, and I think it'll be Stu at the 4. Or if it's not Stu at the 4, it'll be Joe Harris at the 4, just for some shooting. And if it's Joe Harris, that gives me some thoughts about what the opening night starting lineup could be, but we'll hit that later.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Actually, as you were talking, I was thinking that same thing. If it's Joe Harris, it probably means Asar's not starting because he wanted to get the chemistry there with that backup unit. So if Asar moves in, or if Burks moves in, literally anyone other than Joe Harris moves into that slot. I think the starting lineup opening night's still fluid. But if it's Joe Harris, it's going to be Bojan at the 3 next to Stewart at the 4, guaranteed.
Oh, I was saying Joe Harris at the 4 and Asar at the 3. And that would lead me to believe that Stu's coming off the bench and Boyan's starting at the 4 with Asar at the 3. Your lineup for opening night.
Yeah, I wasn't even considering Stewart coming off the bench. But that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
But I think I'm so confused. Like, I think Stu's starting opening night. I'm not sure about the entire season, but I think opening night Stu is starting. I'm going in circles here, but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
All right. Just Football Academy, once again. If Ivey comes off the bench, he isn't doing so as the main ball handler. So why would he come off the bench? What is the starting lineup if he does come off the bench?
I agree with the first part of this question and 100%. Absolutely. If he's coming off the bench, you're still putting the ball in Monte Morris's hands quite a bit, right? He's not getting primary point guard reps off the bench. And for as much focus as all of us tend to put on who's, what's the 10-man rotation, right? Who's your starting 5, who's your bench 5. NBA coaches do not platoon, right? Dwayne Casey was actually a rarity over his time in Detroit, and he did this back with the Raptors as well. But Dwayne Casey actually did like playing 5 bench guys all together at once on the court. That was rare. That's a rare thing in the NBA. Most coaches don't do that, and I'm not entirely sure, but I don't believe Monty Williams does that. So that's something else we have to remember, right? Anytime we're moving someone to the bench or into the starting lineup, it's not necessarily that, we'll do Ivey off the bench so he can be the point guard. Not quite. He'll probably still be spending a lot of time with Cade, like they're going to be fluid. I don't think there's really any reason to do it. There's no like developmental reason to bring him off the bench. So I'm right with you on this question. I'm right there with you on it. If he does get moved to the bench, again, don't know why. I would lean maybe Asar. Maybe you stick Asar at the 2 just because you want that defense and be able to take pressure off Cade on that end of the floor. I can't see Burks moving up. Like, yeah, that's the only one. That's why there's like a 5 or a 1% chance. Like, maybe.
I mean, Asar at the 2 is very, very, very interesting. Like, I didn't even consider him as a 2 for some reason, but it makes a ton of sense with sort of his ball handling and playmaking abilities. I just assumed you would throw Alec Burks in because if you're benching Ivey, I feel like you're just going. I mean, Asar does make sense because you'd be trying to. If Ivey's being benched, I feel like it's probably more so because of his defense and his offense. And Just from what? So maybe you're correct. Maybe it is Asar. I would be. Part of me thinks if you're benching Ivy, though, you'd just be leaning into like maybe all out spacing around Cade and Jalen Duren, but hence you'd put Burks at the 2. Yeah, it's weird because I just can't really see it happening. But I don't mind Asar at the 2 if it does.
Asar at the 2 is a lot of the same logic between playing like Bojan at the 4. Like just because nominally they're there doesn't mean that that's what their role would be.
Yeah.
Usually one side of the court ends up being fluid. So if Asar's at the 2, like it just means Bojan's going to be handling the ball a lot more than he would if Ivy's out there. You know, like it's not that you're going to be now because Asar Thompson's playing the 2, he's going to be handling all these pick and rolls. No, he's still probably doing his dribble handoffs every now and then cutting. It'll just be Bojan gets to handle pick and rolls now instead of Ivy, which not a trade off I'd like to make, but if you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it.
No, that makes a ton of sense. A ton of sense. All right. The next question, and this is a bit of a fun one. YouTube user. Oh, did you bring that question up?
Not a question, but it was just he was talking about the lineup you and I just were saying that it might be effective. Agreed, not starting, but yeah, no, I mean, I could definitely see that happening. That's just like we were saying. So good eye.
What's that?
YouTube.
That's everyone 6'6" or taller.
Yeah,
And
no, that's massive lineup.
massive wingspans. I think even Bogey has a 7-foot wingspan. I learned last season, believe it or not.
I think so. Yeah.
So that's that's a rangy defense for sure. All right. Fun question here. How many Cade Duren lobs do we get tomorrow?
All right. Clarifier for Jack. This one's up to you. All right, you're the question master. Are they successful lobs or not? Are we just talking attempts or are we talking successful lob and alley-oop dunk?
I think successful.
One.
One.
We get one. I think there will be 2 or 3 attempts. I don't think they will all work. Be it because Duren caught it and then didn't finish it, came down with it and made a different move, or just a flat turnover. It didn't work. Didn't work out how we wanted. But I think there will be one Cade to Duren dunk.
I think we don't know 100% who's playing for Phoenix, but they're starting Yusuf Nurkic. I could see Durant getting a couple. That's
true.
I think the only other center they have is Bismack Biyombo, who's not a bad, he's old and he's a backup, but yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say 2, but I do think regardless of the lobs,
about 10?
I'm saying if we get that, we'll be drinking the Kool-Aid tomorrow.
If we get that, that's our championship right there.
Literally. I think though that is on a serious note. The Cade and Duren pick and roll. We saw it in the Team USA stuff. We saw it at the Rico Hines stuff. It is just that's just a scrimmage, but the Team USA stuff in particular is really encouraging with those two's chemistry. Because as I've brought up here, probably 10 times now, those two played, I believe, less than 30 minutes together on the court last season. So them having chemistry right away, it seems like, is huge and is it's gonna be interesting to see how many points Jalen Duren scores. I guess in general, just with Cade on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And something to remember with those two. I mean, obviously they didn't play a lot of minutes together last year. So when we're tracking their chemistry and their feel together, just want to point out it's not all about the lobs, right? There's going to be a lot of dump off passes, a lot of pocket passes, a lot of short roll stuff, seeing how they play with each other and kind of feel the space between them on the court and the pick and roll. So they're some things might come quicker than others. I bet the lobs come pretty fast, but there's a lot of potential between those two beyond just catch and dunk that I think we should get excited about. So I wanted to throw that out there.
No, absolutely, very exciting for sure. All right, another one from YouTube user. Sometimes I wish we knew your name, but I appreciate the incognito approach. Jack, I know this isn't Pistons related. Sure. I respect it. I know this isn't Pistons related, but are you watching NBL games? Does your job involve watching the games? have you seen any prospects that were good for the Pistons? Have I seen any
Lay it out.
prospects?
Let's go.
There is two guys who are in our Next Stars program, which is essentially where the NBL brings college level NBA prospects and they spend a year with an NBL team before getting drafted. And there is two guys in particular, which I think Pistons fans would love. The first one is Alexander Sarr. He's a 7'1". Now, I think he's more of a center, but he's shown a ton of perimeter stuff. He played some really good games against the G League Ignite, probably a month back now. You might have seen some stuff on Twitter. But he's 7'1", massive wingspan. He's pretty skinny, but he's excellent weak side rim protector. The jump shot looks a bit funky, but he's been knocking down threes. He's got really good touch around the rim, which is something that's really impressed me. Shown some passing flashes. And just overall, he's looked like one of the best players in the NBL. And I think he's 19 years old. And he's quite skinny, but he's shown an ability to put it on the floor, finish. So he's a guy definitely. He's been after, I believe, Jonathan Gavoni actually came to the NBL preseason. It's called the Blitz here, which is like our summer league. And yeah, he's had Sarr in contention for the number 1 overall pick. So he's a guy I could see Troy Weaver loving for a start. But I'm not sure if he could play at the 4. But out of anyone on this roster, there's him and Jalen Duren I could see maybe working. I think that'd be worth taking a shot on it. The other guy I really love is Bobby Klintman. So he's 20 years old, I believe. He played at Wake Forest last season. I think he's a 4-man or a big wing, can really shoot the ball, really high energy guy. I think he's about 6'9". I want to say he's got a good wingspan, like a plus wingspan. Pretty good athlete. And his past 2 games this weekend, he's blown me away. He's got player of the game in each game. His team's won both games. He's scored 19 points, had 3 blocks, 2 steals in each game, 6-7 rebounds. And this is against professionals. Might not be the Euro League, but this is pretty high level basketball. It's very similar to an NBA game as well. The NBL, very fast paced, up and down pick and roll league. So Bobby Klintman and Alex Sarr are the 2 guys I've really enjoyed watching it. Yeah, think could fit the Pistons for sure. And I think Klintman's range is more late lottery, in that 10 to 25 range at the moment.
So I wanted to ask you a follow-up question, right? Those are the big names. Who's a sleeper? Give us a sleeper maybe if the Pistons, acquire a late first or maybe just as a second. Who's someone that's kind of pushing that envelope that might be interesting?
Alex Tui, he is an Australian kid. He was meant to he committed to Gonzaga. He's a 6'8" wing. He's not the flashiest player, but he's just that guy. I don't want to say he's Austin Reeves because Austin Reeves is a really good player, but he gives me Austin Reeves vibes. He's a bit bigger than Austin Reeves, probably doesn't have a good handle, but he can shoot the ball. Just a really smart player for someone who's 18 years old. Just a real witty. He's playing on the Sydney Kings, which they've won the championship the past 2 seasons, so they're a really high-level team. And he's getting rotation minutes, and I think 2 nights ago he scored 15 points. The jumper looks really good. So I'd say Alex Tui. I'm not sure if he's definitely nominating for the draft, the 2024 draft, but yeah, he's a guy who I think is in that second round conversation right now.
Love it. Awesome. All right. Alex Tui. Got it. I'll follow. That'll be fun.
So, no, I'm excited because once we see how the Pistons go, and where they're going to fall, it's kind of cool to have NBA prospects here that I can go and watch. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. And yes, I do watch the games. Clearly, I a lot of my job at the moment, for those that care, is I'm running our social media. A lot of the game nights that they're on. So yeah, bit of insight there. Next question from Rodney Nesbitt. Once we bring Jeremy back,
our guy,
that will be.
We love you, man. Jeremy's not coming back. I'm sorry.
Sean
would be a great role for Stu. But
I just want to shout out Sean Corp, our managing editor, actually wrote a really good article on the Jeremy Grant thing on Detroit Bad Boys. So go check that out. I think he wrote it earlier this week, but it'll still be on the homepage there. But yeah, Jeremy Grant's not coming back. I don't think so. That reunion doesn't seem fit.
I just don't see it.
Yeah. All right. Patrick Wickett. Got some over-unders coming up. Love these. Over-under 500 minutes on the season.
James Wiseman. All right, let me James Wiseman played 24 games with the Pistons last year. Total of 605 minutes that came out to 25 minutes per game. I gotta say over. I bet the number of games obviously will go up, right? If he's the backup five, and I would expect him to be. I don't think he's getting 25 minutes a night. Maybe that's 15. But yeah, I think you can be confident in that over. I'm with a YouTube user on this one. Over.
Yeah. So 500 minutes, that's 10 minutes a game across 50 games. So because he's been injury prone, I'd be hesitant to say he plays more than 50 games. I hope he does. But I feel like he's going to have niggles and things here where he sits out. And it probably, so I think I'm going to take a slight under. But I think it might be because of missed time. And I hate wishing this upon players, but I just feel like Wise has struggled to stay healthy. I hope he does. I'm just going to take the under on that slightly. But if you think he's going to be healthy and play 60 games, that's definitely, I think it's an over for sure.
So YouTube user just brought this up. So I wanted to get your opinion on this because this is the deciding point, right? Like if Bagley's better than Wiseman after about a month of basketball, Wiseman's not going to be playing much. He's going to be usurped by Marvin Bagley in the rotation. So is he? Is he going to be? Is Marvin better? Is James better? Who do you got in this battle?
Honestly, I just think Marvin Bagley's flat a better player than James Wiseman right now. Just what he can do offensively outweighs. I just think he's better than Wiseman. Wiseman's got more potential, clearly, but I just think as of right now, like Bagley, I don't know whether he sits in the rotation, but I think Bagley just gives you a bit more offensively. Fits in a little bit better, even though he's prone to his fair share of spin move, post up, lefty hooks.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I was sitting here trying really hard to think of something that like Wiseman's definitely better than Bagley at. Maybe just post defense because of his body. I mean, Wiseman's thicker, right? A little bit longer, a little bit taller. He's probably a better athlete, though I'm not entirely confident in that. It's probably close. Yeah. I do think Bagley's
James
currently a better player.
Is James Wiseman a better rebounder than Marvin Bagley? Because this is one of the issues I have with Wise.
I don't think either of them are good. So
Who's
that's
better,
really
though?
hard to answer.
Don't escape this question.
I would probably trust Marvin Bagley to get a really important rebound more so than Wiseman. Only because Bagley doesn't have as much butterfingers.
Yeah.
I don't love it, though. I don't love my options here, Jeff.
Yeah. I don't either. But I think if you're going to play them at the backup, center position rebounding is kind of important. But they're both, as you said, they're not great rebounders. I think Wiseman's capable of having big rebounding numbers on certain nights because of his physical, like his frame and that kind of thing. But
Bagley had a stretch of like 2010 games, like 3 in a row or something last year. I mean, neither of them are good, but I'll give the edge to Bagley. I'll sit with Bagley.
I'm not sure who posted on Twitter, but coming back from injury, Marvin Bagley played some really good games off the bench, I believe.
He did.
Like he was playing really well. I remember a game in Atlanta. Pistons obviously lost, but he dropped. That must have been in that stretch of 20 and 10s. Like he was hitting threes. Like I think there's just so much. Like he is just a much better player, a much better polished player right now as of today. I don't know what that means for the rotation though.
There was a stretch last season where I can actually remember talking with a few people and thinking like, is he the backup four of the future? Like, can he do it? You know, like he really did play that well. So if we get that Bagley again, that I'd be
Look,
down. That'd be great.
I want to ask you one more question on Marvin Bagley, because is he a 3-point shot away from it just being like a really, really solid backup 4-5? Like really good, to be honest. Or is the defense that bad? It's just not on the cards. Like, is it not that bad? Does it concern you that much that it's less about the jumper?
Defense, yeah, the defense is that bad. But the defense probably is always going to be that bad. Like that's always going to be a handicap on him. And and that's always been a handicap with him. So, I don't think that's what actually would be holding him back from it. There are just some, to me, I still think he's just got some quirks on offense that need to get ironed out, even if that jump shot does come along. Like, he'll just make some plays that leave you scratching your head. He'll lose the ball in ways you didn't really expect an NBA player can lose the ball. Like he does some weird things every now and then. I don't know if he goes rogue. I don't know what goes on. Um, that worries me more than the 3-point shot. Like honestly, I think if he's just a consistent player on offense with the talent that he has, I think he would already be a pretty good backup big. But if you make him consistent at what he does now and then add the jump shot, I do think, yeah, he probably enters into that really solid mid-minute backup big man role.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it. I think that's enough Wiseman Bagley for at least this episode.
You don't want to talk more two big lineups, Jack?
No, I'm good. Actually, I was going to say we've got all season for that, but I don't want to say that because I hope we don't see too many of them. We've got 2 more quick hitters here, and then I want to close out with just our projections for the starting 5. So another quick over under here from Patrick Wickett. Thank you for all the questions, Patrick. We appreciate it. Cade over under 37% on threes this season.
I want to say it, Jack. I don't want to be so negative.
I think it's fair to say what I know you're going to say, because there's a lot of thought behind it. Yeah, I'm under as well, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's more to do with type of shots he's going to be getting.
Yeah, we've talked about it, right? I mean, guys like Trae Young and even Dame Lillard, like it's rare for guys that take a lot of pull-up threes to get up over 37%. It's Steph Curry and Buddy Hield. That's pretty much the guys that do it on that type of shot diet, even though that's a phrase I don't like. So, yeah.
YouTube user.
Under.
Using your favorite phrase.
He's reading our minds. He's reading our minds.
Yeah. 100%. No, I just said, yeah, I'm with you. I came up and said, oh, Dame Lillard. And you actually debunked Dame Lillard has shot under. I don't know if it was 38 or 37%, but a lot of the time he's shot under.
You're not giving yourself enough credit. I made you answer the Dame Lillard question so that I could debunk it.
But I think that
up.
episode. Yeah, that episode, it was probably a month ago now, but that was really good because we were talking about the exact thing. And Damian Lillard is one of the premier shooters, pull-up shooters in the league, and shoots around 35%, 36%. So really good context there. All right. Last question seems fitting. Close it out with our man, John. Do you see Killian getting minutes at the 3?
Well, first, I want to congratulate John for, I think, getting the opening and closing questions of the night. I mean, round of applause for that. That's fantastic. Killian getting minutes at the 3. I think he could. I think a lot of the advantages that make him a pretty good guard defender go away if you play him at the 3, right? I mean, why he's been so good as a backup point guard or shooting guard defender, right, on that on the floor, is he's big, he's physical, and he's pretty quick for his size, right? So he can bump guys, he can get in the way. I mean, we talk about him shying away from contact on offense, not getting to the free throw line. Dude does not have that problem on defense. He will bump anybody. He's very physical on that end of the floor. And he's even held up his own in post ups. So it's not like when, he doesn't have the size advantage that this physicality goes away or anything like that. But when you are playing guys that on average would be probably about 2 inches taller than him, 15 pounds heavier, it's not as much of an advantage that he's physical at his size. It's more of he can hang in there and not be bad on defense. So I wouldn't want to do it because, we talked earlier, Monty Williams tends to take guys and tell them to do what they're good at. I don't think this would be putting Killian Hayes in a situation to do what he's good at on the defensive end of the floor. So I would rather not. Now the flip end of this is if you have him playing the three on offense and Cade's out on the court with him, then Cade could probably take that matchup. So maybe only nominally he's a three, and then that could work. But just in general, Killian Hayes playing the small forward position, I don't think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe we see him get some minutes there in the preseason, but I don't think so. I think if this roster's healthy, which to be honest, it's Isaiah Livers is out, even though he's a 4-man probably, and Boyan's currently out. Maybe there is a need there, but yeah, I don't think so. All right.
Like this is something that kind of you could see a decent amount of 3-guard lineups this year, but it's not because Killian Hayes can play the three. It's because Cade can probably guard threes and at least not be awful at it. Like he's big enough to do it, where Killian really isn't, right? So in those lineups, if you watch it like listed out, or even if however you want to conceptualize it, it wouldn't be Killian at the three. It'd be Cade at the three. So
yeah.
No,
definitely, for sure. All right. I want to close out here with just starting lineup. We sort of chatted about it, but we have a game tomorrow. I want you to answer 2 questions here. As of today, and with the injuries we know, who starts tomorrow in the first preseason game and who starts opening night? And for opening night, we'll assume Boyan's healthy, but Isaiah Livers is definitely out.
I bet that Asar Thompson gets the nod here next to Isaiah Stewart tomorrow afternoon. So your starting lineup is probably Cade, Ivey, Asar, Stewart, Duren. I don't honestly expect any of those guys other than Asar to really, play a lot of minutes, especially Cade. Like as much as he missed last year, I really don't think your risk reward here on getting him a bunch of preseason burn is all that appealing to me. So I do think most of those guys don't end up playing a ton. Maybe getting about a quarter's worth of basketball. Opening night, we all know what I want. I'm not expecting to get what I want. It's going to be Cade and Ivey in the backcourt. You're going to have Stewart and Duren in the front court. I'm leaning to Asar Thompson getting the nod over Boyan there and having Boyan come off the bench.
Wow.
Yeah, my expectation is that that's the way it goes. There seems to be so much momentum behind Asar Thompson right now. Like the coaching staff is talking about him positively. The players are talking about him positively. The beat writers are talking about him positively. Like there ought to have been a red flag in here somewhere if he wasn't playing really good basketball and is probably ready to go. So I bet he starts.
Wow, that one surprised me a little bit. And I'm with you definitely for the preseason game tomorrow. I think Asar Thompson slides in, makes sense. I think he'll play 25 minutes plus. I'm with you on Cade. I don't think fans should expect to see him. Maybe he plays the first half. Maybe he plays first 6 minutes, the first and third. But yeah, I think it's Cade, Jaden, Asar, Stu, and Duren tomorrow. And then for opening night, I still think Boyan starts at the 3, although I'm not as confident as I was 2 weeks ago. I think part of it is due to wanting Boyan to still be seen as a starting 3-man, although I don't know how much that really plays into it. But because I do still think Boyan's probably the most tradable player on this team in terms of realistic. So I think his shooting still just so valuable. But yeah, the more we hear out of the organization and the beat reporters and kind of the news that we've been getting, I wouldn't be surprised if it is that pretty much the core 5 players, the core 5 young guys on the team that are rolled out opening night, which although I have my concerns, like I would be super excited just to watch them on defense and see what they can do offensively. So no qualms with me. I just still think Boyan's just ahead of Asar for now.
Well, the thing with me, I do just expect Asar Thompson to start, and we've been talking about it all off season. If he doesn't start, he would be the first lottery pick since Troy Weaver took over to not start day one, or at least day one when they're healthy, because you got to qualify that for both Cade and Killian Hayes. Um,
Yep.
so, like, I think reasonably he should be probably expected to start. Then you bring in, try to reason it with the defense. There's not really anyone else on the roster that can do the things he can do on the wing on defense. And then the question just becomes who plays next to him. And as much as I would really like to see Bojan for the spacing, it doesn't seem to be the way that that's going. So even
Well,
like in my mental, like in my own head, the battle was actually between Stewart and Bojan, and Asar was assumed. Which, yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but that's where I was logicking from.
I would. I mean, yeah. I think we both just. I think Isaiah Stewart's definitely starting day one, and I
It
obviously
feels like
understand the
sure.
logic. I'd be very surprised. So I'm excited though. I'm excited. That the core young 5 players, if they hit like, which that's asking a ton, and the probability is not very high. Like that's a very fun, versatile group of 5. Like the smallest guy's Jaden Ivey
Yes.
at 6'5" or 6'4", sorry. But everyone else is 6'6" or taller, long arms, pretty athletic. It's a pretty athletic group of 5. Yeah, that's a very exciting 5. Although there's lots of concerns with shooting, namely. But I think that does it, Wes. It's been probably one of my favorite shows. We've been doing this all off season. We've finally got a game tomorrow, 3
Yes.
p.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. if you live in Australia. But we're
Good luck.
ready. We're ready. Do you have a prediction for tomorrow? I know it's preseason, but let's just chuck one out. Maybe give
Uh,
me top scorer of the core 5 Pistons, and then
oh
just
no.
the Pistons win or lose. It doesn't
Um,
matter, but
my
just tell me.
real prediction is that it will be fun. The predictions you're making me say. I'll say I think Jaden Ivey is probably the leading scorer of that group of 5. Though maybe for fun, it's like Marcus Sasser is the leading scorer for the Pistons of the game because I bet he plays a lot, right? Like why do you give Alec Burks a bunch of burn? Why do you give Monte Morris a bunch of burn? Like they've done this. They're ready to go. So I bet Sasser plays a lot. Maybe he scores a bunch. That'd be fun to watch. Do they win or lose? I don't know. Let's say they'll win because it's Monty Williams' birthday.
Is it actually? That's a great shout.
Yeah. Tomorrow's Monty Williams' birthday. Playing his old
That
team. They're gonna come out with all the energy for the revenge and preseason game 1. And
hey,
it's just the vibes will overflow the Phoenix Suns and they'll be watched on TV.
I love it. I tell you what, imagine if we get another Dwayne Casey Toronto kind of thing with Monty and the Suns. That would be fun. Taking out one of the top teams, sweeping them every season. That would be super fun.
That would be fun, but
I
it
would,
would be more fun to keep the Toronto thing going. Just keep
yes,
beating
absolutely.
Toronto. That would make me really happy.
Even though Nick Nurse, Dwayne Casey, they're both gone. Keep it up.
It's never about that. It was about how they take over LCA
Oh,
anytime the
of
Raptors come to
course.
town. Yeah,
Of course.
I
That's
don't like them.
100%. That's bad,
Their fans can
bad
get out of
Pistons
here.
history for me. Yeah. No, I'm with you. All right, Wes. I think that does it. Appreciate everyone
Sure.
jumping in the comments. One of our most active shows. We're very excited. Some new names in here. Got basketball tomorrow, as I said. So I can't wait to watch it. Thanks to my co-host Wes, as always. Special shout out to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for making this show happen. And once again, shout out to everyone in the comments. Please drop a like if you feel like doing so. We'd really appreciate it. We're going to be here all season long. But until next week, go Pistons.